Is not an alien force already among us?
That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
From some other species, from another planet, outside in the universe.
Welcome to S4.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to S4, the official radio broadcast of Forest Moon Paranormal, with host Eric Cooper and our panel of enlightened minds. Coming to you live from FMP headquarters located in the heart of Skagit Valley, Washington, at the base of the majestic North Cascade Mountains. We will take you through a journey of exploration as we examine every aspect of the metaphysical. From spirits, UFOs, Bigfoot, and conspiracies, to grounding, protection, astral travel, and everything in between, leaving you with a better understanding and comprehension of the world around you, and the entities that inhabit it. Join us every Saturday night at Spreaker.com and locally on KSVU 90.1. Don't forget to check out our new webpage at www.s-4radio.com. Now sit back, open your mind, get ready. This is S4.
Good evening or morning, depending where you are, and welcome to S4, the voice of Forest Moon Paranormal. We're coming to you live from the FMP headquarters here in the heart of the Cascade Mountains in Concrete, Washington. FMP is a highly active emergency response team for all aspects of the paranormal, from aggressive hauntings to alien interaction, Bigfoot and other cryptids, and everything in between is terrifying. So S4 is the voice where we discuss these things in detail. Now, not only can you find S4 right here on Spreaker, but for our local listeners, also on KSVU 90.1 FM from 10 to 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Saturdays with the pre-recorded shows. So, folks, tonight, it's the 4th of May already, and it's Star Wars anniversary. It was also National Free Comic Book Day. So we figured how fitting it'd be to discuss movies and television shows and their role in intelligence involving the paranormal field. Is there true to fictional movies and shows when it comes to aliens, the supernatural, and paranormal field in general? So let's discuss it. So tonight we have Colway Gleitner, our FMP Lore and Culture Research Specialist and owner of Statement of Sound DJ Services. And we have Eric Markham, our FMP Scientist. And later on, we might have our Keith, our alien race specialist, and Steve Monchok, our drone and mountain ops. And we did get some bad news here about 15 minutes ago. Matt, one of our team members, wrecked his race car.
Number 88.
Number 88 at the Skagit Speedway. So he is in the hospital getting checked out. Nothing major that we know of as of yet, and we will get more information as we get. We'll share more information as we get it. Get better, Matt, and by all means, get back in the car. Also, a shout out to Thailand and the Federation of Moldova. I'm not sure how you say your country, but we love getting new countries that new listeners that listen from countries especially countries you've never heard of before. I gotta look them up. So tonight, the kids went with Izzy tonight, my mate, and they went to all the comic book stores around the area, and they got 36 free comic books. It's like, oh my God, seriously? And now they want to go to the Comic-Con in Bellingham in October. So I reckon we're going.
For any parents listening out there, you know what? A comic book is still a book.
It is.
It doesn't matter what they're reading as long as they're reading.
Exactly. I agree. And you know what? It really goes in line with what we're talking about tonight because, comic books, well, think about it. What's not more paranormal than, I don't know, Iron Man, Thor, the Avengers? Before we continue with that, I should just reiterate, if your kid is reading the Anarchist Cookbook, maybe you might want to check on that one. Well, some things they shouldn't be reading. But the Anarchist Cookbook...
Yeah, some of them formulas are wrong. The kid will blow his own self up.
Right. But at the same time, that's not a comic book either.
That's true.
At least I've never seen that as a comic book.
I laughed when I read it.
Right?
I'm just saying, always check what your kids are reading. Some of the comics books out there are not made for kids, but there's a lot that are.
Well, and so are video games. If you look at, look at the Alien Races book that Dante Centauri translated, and a lot of the alien depictions in that nonfiction book they come from video games because that's the closest to reality that they could actually get. So it makes you wonder if video game designers learned something from intelligence and portrayed it that way based on reality, or if it just came out of somebody's imagination.
Well, according to that book, the writers of the game series Mass Effect, 6 of the alien races are actually from that book and were given to the creators by the Russian government.
And that makes sense, because it was the Russian government that the ARB actually came from. So, And, so we're going to start off as the first hour is going to be Star Trek, Star Wars. I'm going to let you lead off with that, Cole, because I know you're a big Trekkie. You're a big
No, I'm not.
Hey, a big Star Wars fan. Come on now.
I am a Sith.
Uh-huh.
I believe in a lot of what the Sith stands for, and which a lot of people will not get because they are portrayed as very evil, but at the same time, they are portrayed as the other side of the coin. In order for them to exist, the light side of the Force needs to exist. In order for the light side of the Force needs to exist, the dark side needs to exist as well. It creates a balance.
Basic Taoism, yeah.
It goes with reality, though. There has to be. Yeah. There can't be evil without light. There can't be a good without evil, rather, and dark without light.
That's right.
It'd be a boring world if it was one or the other.
Now,
yeah, but you got to have that balance to. If everybody was good, would you notice?
No,
there wouldn't be anything to judge anybody against.
Now, to give people a little perspective on the whole Star Wars thing, why today is May the 4th. So today is actually not the anniversary of their first Star Wars. The first Star Wars came out May 25th, 1977. But with the indulgence of the internet, someone came up with the idea that, hey, May the 4th sounds a lot like May the Force. So when Disney took over Lucasfilms, they erupted that whole thing, and this became an official holiday within the United States of Star Wars Day. Now, but it's not the only one. This is the Rebel Star Wars Day. Tomorrow we have our own, and it is Revenge of the 5th.
And that's your favorite day.
Absolutely. But don't forget also, people, it is Cinco de Mayo tomorrow. So to all the Mexican Americans in Southern California, happy Cinco de Mayo. I didn't realize this, but a lot of people in Mexico do not celebrate that day. So it was a war to them. So it's not something they celebrate.
Huh, okay.
So, but, okay, so there is a huge difference between Star Trek and Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Star Wars came from the mind of one man.
George Lucas.
George Lucas.
Yeah.
Correct.
I was going to say Joseph Campbell.
So,
No, honestly, because it was the whole Joseph Campbell in his book, well, his theorem in his book about the hero's journey.
yes, I
Star
agree with
Wars
you.
is that, set in space.
But when it comes to the depiction of the alien races and the types of technology, that is literally all from Lucas's mind.
Mm-hmm.
When he wrote Star Wars for the first time, it wasn't 9 movies, it was 1. But it was 22 and a half hours long once he figured out how each scene would be placed out. And that's why he had to split it. When Gene Roddenberry came up with Star Trek, though, yes, the original series was him. The rest of them, not as much. So each alien race that's introduced with each Star Wars or Star Trek series is from different minds collectively.
Okay, now Nikki's in the chat room. She wants to know, wasn't Lucas given information?
According to himself, no. He has had no inkling that there is any truth to what he writes. It has been depicted in certain TV shows and movies that he was. I'm trying to remember.
Oh, Paul, the movie Paul, the E.T. said, Star Wars, yeah, that's all me. Something like that.
Yeah, but there's also one where it's about a time jumper, and I'm not sure if it's Doctor Who or one of the other ones. But they actually kidnapped George Lucas, and so Star Wars doesn't happen, and because of that, America is no more. Like, it's a whole thing.
One of the things I heard in that mythology, or, that I guess you might call it an urban myth because we can't substantiate it, is that Ronald Reagan said, told George Lucas, you don't know how close you are. But I've also heard that attributed to Ronald Reagan telling Steven Spielberg he didn't know how close. So,
well, but that's the thing. Those two are really good friends. And that is evident throughout their movies. So Steven Spielberg wrote or directed Indiana Jones, the first one.
Mm-hmm. I believe he did Close Encounters too, didn't he?
Yes. But in Indiana Jones, C-3PO and R2-D2 make an appearance. They are in the hieroglyphs in the temple. As well as E.T. is in Star Wars Episode 1.
I remember there's this one shot, and I can't remember which episode it is because of the way they chop them up. To me, Star Wars is Episode 1 because that was when I was a kid and that was the first one I saw. But anyway,
No,
There's
absolutely. I
they're
agree with
panning
you.
across this huge galactic Senate thing, and in one of those floating pods, there's a bunch of little ETs.
Okay, so
The
that is
ET alien guy.
That was in episode 1 when they showed the Galactic Senate.
Okay.
So that isn't actually number 1. That's with young Anakin. Little Darth Vader.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So, and yes, that is the scene I'm talking about where there are 3 ETs in one of those small pods. Now, whether he was given information or not, we will never actually know. George Lucas isn't the mind that would admit that if he was.
No. And
he is.
You know, in all reality, he may be bound by secrecy because back then, it's not like Chris Carter today, where Chris Carter will actually come out and say, yes, the FBI, approached him, or the government approached him and said, here's information on the X-Files. You can show this throughout the TV show. This is back in the 70s with Star Wars. And back then, I couldn't see, I could see them being bound by secrecy.
Well, and you got to think of it this way. How far off could it be from, it could be historical data.
Well,
it is a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, but nowhere in that movie, in any of them, does it say they're human.
No. And look at, like you and I were talking earlier today, how close to Bigfoot Chewbacca looks.
That's right. Oh, I want to say that too.
Peter Mayhew.
May he rest in peace.
Yes.
Indeed. I did see a little cartoon of Carrie sitting up at the pearly gates, and she finally gives him a medal. Which is awesome, because that guy, he never got a hug, he never got a medal. It was bullshit. Sorry.
I agree.
It wasn't fair, ever.
No.
He had the hide and seek championship, and he never got anything. Now, Eric, do you know where that whole Chewbacca and Bigfoot stand or look alike thing comes from?
No, actually, I don't.
Okay, so when they were filming the Battle of Endor for Film 6, they were doing that in the peninsula of the Olympic Peninsula, of Washington. And because of our history with Bigfoot here, there was people who were out hiking and hunting and doing different things in the peninsula who would actually take shots at Peter Mayhew, believing he was Bigfoot.
Oh, my God.
So towards the end of their shoots that they were doing, they had any time that Peter was in his outfit as Chewbacca, he had 5 guys in orange suits all around him. So that way people knew he wasn't actually a Bigfoot.
And that was when he was in the Olympic Peninsula, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Which, for listeners that aren't familiar with this area, Olympic Peninsula is tied with number 1 for Skagit County, Grays Harbor County, for actual Bigfoot sightings. So when it comes right down to it, actually seeing a Bigfoot on a movie set may not be that far-fetched.
Yeah. I could see that.
I mean, I couldn't see an actual Bigfoot stepping out and going, hey, there's a movie set. Well, let's see if I can blend in. No, that wouldn't happen. But it is a very hot spot for Bigfoot. And I still remember Markham hearing his first Bigfoot knocks here in the
pit. Last year.
Yep.
As a matter of fact, it was this. It was a year ago today, I believe. Yeah, because last year I was there for my birthday, and man, what a rocking birthday it was.
Indeed. Indeed.
But yeah, we went up on we went up on the mountain and heard that. Just about the time we were entering, the woods area, it was almost like somebody was announcing, quick, here they come.
Yeah. But that was a very unique knock because, I've never heard it make tones like that, did it? Went boom, ba-dum, boom, boom.
Yeah, it had structure to it. It wasn't just like when you're watching one of those stupid Never Finding Bigfoot episodes and that's just some idiot wailing on a tree. This had a structure to it. A boom, 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 boom. There was a loud initial knock, and then the descending tones that also kind of descended in volume as they went. So there was definitely structure in that. It wasn't just a limb falling in the woods or anything like that.
I have an idea for that.
What's that?
When we go do our Bigfoot trip, like our search trip with the kids,
mm-hmm.
I'm going to make something for him to leave at our gifting site.
Okay.
We're going to leave him a set of drumsticks that are made for someone his size. Maybe that's all he's asking for when he knocks on trees. I'm just saying.
Right.
Just take a couple baseball bats out there, you'd have about the right.
Like, maybe it's all like he wants is just a set of drumsticks so he can continue with his musical career.
Well,
Came a CD player, a battery-operated CD player with a solar panel and some Buddy Rich CDs.
Yeah.
Right.
Gene Krupa, Neil Peart, show him how it's really done.
With Star Wars and Star Trek, I do have a really hard time thinking that they had information themselves, and not because of the fact that everything was pretty out there for the time that those movies and shows were brought out in. But at the same time, they weren't. None of the technology was beyond what we could imagine. A lightsaber at that point in the 1970s was something that the government was already working on. A high-powered laser that could cut through things.
Mm-hmm.
A phaser was something that already came out in the 50s. That wasn't anything new. It was just the compact design of it that was new.
I can remember reading an article about what was possible with the lightsaber and what wasn't based on 70s technology, and how yes, a laser of that intensity could be produced, but getting it to stop another laser, it would have been just like mist passing through. You couldn't have blocked one lightsaber with another.
No,
it would have just been it would obviously like crossing flashlight beams. And getting it to go just so far and then come back. I believe I spent the entire night after seeing that movie wondering, how could I build my own lightsaber?
Now, the way that George Lucas got past that fact, because there is some non-canon, so not related to the original Star Walker Saga series, stories that reference that fact. And it's the fact that it's not actually a saber itself that beats against the other person's weapon. So they're not actually hitting each other. That's your force hitting each other. Your use of the force.
So you're basically producing the energy.
Yes. So in order for a lightsaber to actually work, you have to use the midichlorians around you, and otherwise it won't turn on. A lightsaber by itself would never turn on. It has to have human touch. Or not human, but physical touch.
Okay. So...
Yeah, because General Grievous, well, there was a little bit of human left in General Grievous, but what was it, like a pair of lungs and a heart that was still beating, and he could turn them on.
And half a brain.
You know what's interesting is that, growing up, because I was a kid in the 70s when Star Wars first came out. And I remember they tried to bring religious context to Star Wars. What do you guys think of that? They tried to say, Darth Vader was the devil and Luke was Jesus and and whatnot. Do you think it's a stretch, or do you think there was any religious connotation to Star Wars?
I think it was a stretch to put. I think you could take the basic Christianity, good versus evil, but it was more Eastern religion. It was more Taoism. It was more like mysticism, Kabbalah, and stuff like that than it was anything Christian. I think they were stretching.
And
you look into esoteric, and it was very religious in esoteric terms.
Right.
I think that's actually, even in that day, that would have been frowned upon by higher members of the church to actually stretch it that far, because you got to think, sitting in the Vatican, how do you explain that? Yeah, that's what they meant. When they brought out Jabba the Hutt, he was Judas. Like, really? Come on. The higher church wouldn't be able to explain that. Therefore, they don't want themselves connected with that in any shape. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, no, I fully agree.
Like,
I
honestly think and that still happened all the way up until the 7th movie. They continued that with number 1, 2, and 3.
But it's almost like they're trying to explain how they can feasibly watch this secular movie and make it fit their agenda so that, their church people can go watch Star Wars.
And I can see that.
You can actually draw more of a Christian religious mythology into the Lord of the Rings trilogy than the Star Wars, I think.
Yeah, but oh my God, no. They don't even try to stretch with Lord of the Rings.
And they really should, because it really was Tolkien's allegory. Both Tolkien and C.S. Lewis were very, very close friends. Tolkien kind of fell off his religion, where C.S. Lewis, the more grinding his life became, the more spiritual he became. And there's a lot of that light versus dark, Judeo-Christian kind of theology woven through the works of both men.
Right.
But I'm just trying to think, if you try and take Lord of the Rings and throw it straight at the Bible, who does Gollum fit into? Like Noah? The 900-year-old drunk?
No. Gollum would be more, I would say, like a Judas Iscariot, or maybe an Old Testament. Oh heck! The name just fell out of my head. No, but I think you could. You can link. It's easier to link Christianity and the Judeo-Christian mythology into the Lord of the Rings than you can Star Wars, I think.
But again, I would say a lot of it depends on what depiction you're using. Because if you follow the books, I can agree with that. If you follow the movies, I think that there's a lot of popes that would be spinning in their grave, because there is, like, the movies, they threw a lot of gay undertone into it. They really did. Like, yeah. Sam and Frodo had a lot closer relationship in the movies than they did in the book.
Yeah, in the book, Sam was his friend, but he was also his servant.
And he
knew his place as. Well, yeah, they were. I don't know though. I think, in a way, I just reread the trilogy plus the Silmarillion and all that about 8 months ago, And I think that Peter Jackson actually did a good job of embellishing what was already there in Tolkien's writings. But in the book, Aragorn is sort of an arrogant turd. Yes, he's the king, the heir to the throne and all that, but he's kind of a jerk in the books.
He is.
I think Jackson did a much better job of taking the arrogance away from him and just making him this world-weary, man who just basically wanted to get it over with.
The name escapes me, but the other human in the original 9.
I'm going to say, though, with Lord of the Rings, I love all the Fae.
Oh, Boromir.
All the Fae connotations. You've got the Dryads. You've got the sprites. You've got all the nature fairies portrayed in Lord of the Rings, which I think was great. You don't see fairly realistic portrayals of the Fae elements in movies.
Yeah, but I like how they brought in the crazy hippie.
Oh my God, Radagast Brown is my hero.
When they brought him in, that was my favorite part.
And he is just, there is nothing. When they did the Hobbit movies, they made up characters and they actually added significance, because Radagast is only mentioned in passing.
Yeah.
And
he has nothing to actually do in
source,
the book.
Right, even in appendices and stuff, the blue wizards are acknowledged as existing, but Tolkien never really did get around to giving the blue wizards a name.
But you
got Saruman,
to
Gandalf, and Radagast were the only named wizards.
I'm more amazed by the Hobbit movies than I was by Lord of the Rings movies, because of the fact that the Hobbit, you look at the size of that book compared to the Lord of the Rings.
And also the tone and the address tactics that were used, because the Hobbit was written, the way I heard it, or read it in a biography, the Hobbit was written in installments, or what would become the Hobbit later, fleshed out, were basically Tolkien writing to his children, Christopher, and I think he had a sister or daughter. But anyhow, he was in the trenches in World War I, and he was writing this to his kids, this kind of an installment. And even if you read the two, that's an adult context and an adult audience address tactic in the Lord of the Rings books. But from the very opening paragraph of The Hobbit, it's obvious that's a kid's novel. That's right there, like Winnie the Pooh or Wind in the Willows. It's almost written in the same tone as Kenneth Grahame wrote Wind in the Willows, which was a children's book.
Mm-hmm. Okay, but do you think that he had any specific information that might not have been, like, no, I'm not saying from a government organization, but I'm saying maybe from the sprites or the Fae themselves, that they're real because of how close he did get to a lot of them?
Well, I think a lot of it, his source material was Teutonic, Icelandic, Norwegian. He was getting into the mythology. There was already this mythology. In fact, you can look at what the opera Ring of the Nibelungen was based on, and the Lord of the Rings and the framework is already in the Nordic, Germanic, Icelandic myths. And he was an expert in those languages and in those mythological literatures. That was his source material. What he was doing when he created Middle Earth, he was basically trying to make a mythology for the English people. So this the elves, the barrow wights, the ants, the ogres and all that stuff were already there, and he was taking what was existing in literature that predated him by hundreds of years, and bringing it into an Anglo-Saxon, into an English context, where he came up with things like the orcs. He saw how the industrialists were destroying the countryside around, so these filthy maggot folk of Mordor, those orcs, that was his direct, condemnation of the property developers that were destroying the countryside around him. That's why they're so despicable.
And it's interesting.
They have no redeeming qualities.
It's interesting how all portrayals of orcs, even to current day, is of a nasty race. I mean, look, have you seen Bright yet?
Yes. Those orcs aren't necessarily bad.
No, they're not.
I mean, one of the main characters is rather heroic.
He is, and we've had this talk a few times, not on the show, but Izzy and I, about how Will Smith, they're racist against orcs,
right?
And it's almost like African Americans being treated racially would think that they would understand more. We shouldn't treat this race negatively, but they do.
Well, it seems like just within the human race, any oppressed group will vent their rage on another group.
Someone that's different, like the orcs.
Yes. Sharecroppers didn't like the freed blacks.
Mm-hmm.
The freed blacks didn't. There's always somebody lower down on the totem pole for you to dislike and to heap your derision on, because you're being treated unfairly by the caste above you.
I also like the portrayal of the elves, because they show the elves kind of like in the FBI role or the government role.
I think that what I liked about the elves is you had the high elves that were, Elrond's people, and Galadriel's people were kind of tame, really.
Mm-hmm.
But the wood elves, like in The Hobbit, the wood elves, Legolas's people, they were kind of, feral.
Kind of like the mountain people.
Yeah.
Have you seen Bright yet, Cole?
Yes. That one weirded me out.
So when I first saw it, I didn't understand that the orc, the way they're portraying orcs, I actually thought they were alien and not Fae. So I watched it kind of weird on that side, and then it's like, oh, well, damn, orcs are part of the Fae realm. Okay. And
right.
So it made more sense. And then, of course, I love how they showed what happens if you don't respect your wand. Because that is realistic.
Whoa, what? They weren't aliens?
No.
No, they were actually more along the lines of I saw it through the eyes of a rabid Dungeons and Dragons player in my youth.
Right.
So,
right.
It never occurred to me these were aliens. To me, it was the Gary Gygax monster manual given life.
Yeah. No, the whole movie was based on Fae and a human. The humans and their interaction with the Fae realms, which would be the orcs. Of course, fairies getting in the bird feeder. Yeah, that would be realistic. And of course, getting the crap beat out of them by a human. Realistic. And they got the elves. You got, I can't. And I love the soundtrack to the whole movie. I've got the soundtrack to the whole movie. It's great. Um, and again, Lord of the Rings and Bright, I would say, are the two better ones. There was one episode of Torchwood.
Oh God, I love that show.
There was one good episode of Torchwood I remember that had fairies that actually showed them negative and realistic, and they were kidnapping kids.
Is it so much that the Fae are evil, or is it just that they have such a completely different point of view and such an alien psychology? You know,
It's so
that they appear evil.
You don't remember that, Ed? That we covered the Fae in S4.
Well, we covered it from our perspective, though.
But there,
well, okay, but at the same time, we never portray our show from an ant's perspective, but we're a jerk to an ant because we step on them.
We do.
Like, you got to think of it that way. Any show we do, we're never going to do it from a Fae's point of view because we're not them.
The closest we've come to that, though, I would say, is the Hellboy series.
God. Yeah.
When Hellboy goes to goes to that bridge and goes into the troll, the Fae world.
Mm-hmm.
I think they do a better job of portraying the Fae in a sympathetic light in Hellboy: The Golden Army than in any movie I've ever seen. They're just people doing their thing. Yeah, we think some old bag lady eating a cat is evil, but, you got to eat something. What if you developed and that's the only thing you could eat? Well, you're not evil just because you're trying to live.
Right.
I prefer the Gremlins version. I'm a fan of them. I can't help it. Like no matter what they do, they're still cute.
Oh, the Mogwai? Yeah.
Well,
the Gremlin. I think he's cute.
Oh, Gremlins? Yeah, they're awesome.
I'm into them. Like that's awesome.
I'm not a good person on things like that, though, because I honestly thought when I was a kid that I was supposed to be Pugsley and Wednesday's brother. I was just sure I was swapped at birth. I was supposed to have gone home with Gomez and Morticia.
And Kimberly, okay, so glad you're here, Joe. Pointy Stick Joe is in the chat room. He says chicks dig Captain Jack, and yeah, so do guys.
Hey, Joe.
And Kimberly is saying True Blood has some gnarly fake hair. I never got into True Blood. We're going to cover True Blood in the third hour. We'll cover the cryptid side in the third hour. Yeah. Never got into True Blood. Something about sparkly vampires and that whole lot. Just no. No. Vampires don't sparkle, for one. But yeah. Did you guys get into the whole Twilight?
No, I'm Anne Rice fan.
I know absolutely nothing. I know only what has leaked through my pop culture as far as the Twilight series. I just don't think it was meant. I don't think the woman wrote it for 50-year-old men to enjoy. However, the Underworld series with Kate Beckinsale, totally into that.
Oh,
if I could be that kind of lichen, if somebody walked up and said, sign this dotted line, and you could become one of these ferocious, at-will shapeshifters, I couldn't sign fast enough.
But think of the fleas.
So, have you seen a movie called Blood and Chocolate?
No. I can't remember that one.
Blood and Chocolate. Very good lichen movie. Lichen, the typical lichen saving the human. Because they fall in love with a human. And they get kicked out of their clan. But, no spoilers. watch Blood and Chocolate. Good movie.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I've always been a fan of Anne Rice. I don't know if it's just part of how she sells her books, but she has always claimed Lestat is real. He talks to her. And
go ahead.
One of the things I don't like about Anne Rice is I know a guy named David Niall Wilson who wrote a book, This Is My Blood. And I swear, later down the line, Anne Rice got a hold of his book, read it, and co-opted 90% of his material for her later books.
Well, but okay, if you follow what she says for how she wrote her books, is it that, or is it the fact that Lestat de Lioncourt did not like the way he wrote his book, and so he went to someone else? Because if you read about Lestat, he is that kind of person. He is that arrogant that he would go to someone else and say, rewrite this.
And I've got to go back. I've got to apologize real quick. Yeah, no, True Blood was not Twilight. It wasn't the Twilight second part. True Blood was a TV show that came out, and yeah, and it had, you know, I didn't like their portrayal of witch covens, because knowing witch covens, it was a negative light, and I didn't appreciate that aspect. But yeah, True Blood, a cheesy, very, it was really just a vampire excuse to have a lot of sex in a TV show.
So yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, Kimberly, but isn't that an HBO?
Yeah, it was. It was Showtime or HBO, one of the two. I remember True Blood now.
And they, half of their shows are honestly excuses just to have sex in movies.
Yeah, it is.
Well, yeah. Game of Thrones is Dungeons and Dragons for adults. There's boobies in it.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, if True Blood has some of the same comedy that Game of Thrones has had, I could watch that. Some of their lines in the Game of Thrones are hilarious.
There wasn't.
They really are.
It wasn't geared towards comedy. It was. Yeah, I agree, Kimberly. It was. Yeah, it was bad. It was a. No, I wouldn't watch it again.
Well, she's asking if it's bad. I think that it was HBO, and no, HBO is not a bad place to go for entertainment. It's the fact that they're willing to throw almost anything together just to get sex in there, because they know that that's what their customer base mostly does want, is they want the late night shows that they can watch and they can feel a little bit naughty for watching late at night.
And it's got vampires, so it's got to be cool.
That too.
Yeah. And that's all vampires want is sex. You know, that's the stereotype you got. Blood and sex. Yeah.
Well, because they have all the money in the world somehow. Like, I don't care how long you live. If you suck with money, you're always going to suck with money. Okay?
Agree. But, you know, and that's that's the whole image they try to portray with werewolves, lycans, vampires. It's all sex. Sex sells when it comes to those genres. So,
I've always wondered, though, if you were somebody that was immortal, you would have to, just look at somebody who progresses through porn addiction. You know, maybe in the earlier stages, the mild stuff is what titillates, but as you go further and further and get more and more addicted, the extremity of the action you have to see to get that same, feeling, it's progressive. So if you take that into a real life situation, you have this immortal being, been there, done that. How extreme do you have to go to get that kick to your libido?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Somebody's been around for 500 or 600 years. Can you literally think of anything anybody's been around there that long hasn't done?
Well,
Especially when you have the ability to work people's minds over and make them do what you want.
And how many mates can you go through as an immortal? And getting involved with mortals.
That's one of that was touched in Jerome Bixby's. There's a real low budget movie, excellently done, called The Man from Earth. And the title does not make sense with the movie, but what it is, this guy has been around since he's basically a Cro-Magnon bordering on modern human who never died. And he tells this woman that's infatuated, like, look, I can give you maybe 19, 20 years. I enjoy you, and I like you, and I find you attractive, but I can't love you. I've had to get over it too many times.
And it makes sense.
Well,
after the fourth, fifth one, be like, how many heartaches can I go through?
but that's the thing. I think
Right.
it depends on what kind of immortal being we're talking about, because a vampire can turn him.
Right. This guy
just gotta
couldn't
wait till
turn
they're
him.
the
He
right
just had to
age.
watch him die. Yeah.
Because you look at if you actually read all the Vampire Lestat book series, in Interview with a Vampire, they had the little girl Cynthia.
Claudia, wasn't it?
Claudia, sorry, you're right.
Yeah, she was evil.
Now, if you read the second book, The Vampire Lestat, that was his plan for her. He was going to let her get to his age, like body size, and then he was going to turn her. He
There's
wasn't
a
going
really
to do
good-
it right away.
There's a really good book or a movie. There's two versions. There's a Dutch language version that's let the right one in, and then Hammer Films took it and did it in English with a American cast. Chloe Moretz plays a vampire, and she's stuck at about 11. And you get the impression that eventually it's the other way around. She finds a young kid that's going to be her protector, and they eventually, once he gets old enough to be a sexual partner, they do that. And then he gets too old for her, and she goes on to the next. So it was sort of a reversal of that. It was the young girl having all the worldly experience and going through this line of young, from, like, say, fifth graders, contemporaries, until they were middle-aged adult men, like, say, in their 50s, and then it was time to, you shuffle off, it's time for the next one.
Okay. So it seems to be a consensus with most of the movies, TV shows, everything, that as a vampire or a werewolf or anything like that, it is a huge no-no to turn a child.
I think it's essentially because of the innocence taken.
Now, if
Or
there
did the
are any
authors of
creatures
this-
out there that are able to change humans into themselves, do you think that's true?
I think for the most part, yeah.
Like changelings and...
Now, changelings are different. Changelings are human children that are essentially kidnapped from the fairies, and replaced with one of their own kind.
So what do they do with the human kid?
Oh, the human kid's taken to the fairyland, to their realm, to be raised as one of their own.
So it's like Peter Pan.
Until they get tired of them, and then all of a sudden you get this kid showing or this 30-something adult who's been raised in fairyland. All of a sudden they're coming home because for them it didn't seem like time passed that much.
Well, they can't return them because time in
we know what happens.
But time in fairyland is, I believe, every 1 minute is 100 years. I have to research that again. But basically, a guy was in fairyland for, I believe, an hour, and they told him you can ride your horse, but you can't get off your horse. You get turned to dust because it's been 1,000 years. Well, he didn't listen. He went back to our realm, and he got off his horse for whatever reason, and he dropped to dust. So now, once they take a human child, they can't return him.
That's not what happened with Peter Pan. He became a lawyer.
Right?
And one of the best ones.
Yeah, Peter Pan has sort of a dark connotation. I mean, the Disney version was, for kids, Neverland, and Peter was fighting Captain Hook, but in the actual tale that comes from is much darker. He's a much darker force than that. He's more like the fae that kidnaps children and brings them into the fairy realm so he's not alone.
But that's half of the Disney stories you got to remember.
Right.
Like they've done that with all the fairy tales. You look at Pocahontas. She was 11 years old when she met John Smith, not 20. There was no way she was going to marry him.
Well, then they drug her to England. She, they made the trip, paraded around like a trained animal, and she caught smallpox or some old world disease and died horribly.
Yeah. And John Smith actually ended up going back to England because he kept gunpowder in a pouch beside his nether regions and accidentally lit it on fire when he lit his pipe.
Yeah, it's amazing what real history is compared to cartoons and movies.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, even what you're taught in school, is just the basic, even back in the 60s when I went to school, 70s, what was presented in history in elementary school was basically the Disney version of history.
Right. And on that note, we're going to go ahead and go to a break. And when we come back, we're going to switch over to some aliens.
Excellent.
And yeah, be thinking of your favorite movies. So when we return, more S4 and alien movies.
You are listening to S4 on Spreaker.com.
Come get spooked at the 4th Annual Forest Moon Paracon in Cedar-Woolley, Washington, Saturday, September 28th. UFOs, ghosts, aliens, Bigfoot. Speakers include Mike Morin and Jason Jordan, R. Keith Andrews, and Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio, and so much more. There will be workshops and a VIP roundtable. Get early bird tickets now at fmparacon.com.
Well, hello there. Us here at S4 would like to remind you out there that the UFOI team weekly meetings are broadcast live on Facebook from Denny's, where America eats, each Monday night, 6 to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time at UFOI Team on Facebook. The UFOI team's gear, product store, and newsletter are located on their website at ufoiteam.com. To contact the UFOI team with your sightings report or a paranormal story, send an email to the UFOI team at gmail.com. Keep looking up and tell us your story.
Forest Moon Paranormal is a non-for-profit emergency response team that handles all aspects of the paranormal, helping you, your family, friends, and community since 2004. Whether you're having a problem with hauntings, spirits, Bigfoot, other types of cryptids, or UFO activity. Maybe you're just unsure of what's bothering or terrifying you. Or maybe you're just afraid of criticism and disbelief. FMP is here for you. We handle cases globally and locally from our headquarters in Skagit County, Washington. We never accept any form of payment for our services and are 100% confidential. You can find us on Facebook under Forest Moon Paranormal. You can private message us for assistance, or just come join in the discussion and become part of our growing FMP community.
Hello, my name's Cole Wegleitner with Statement of Sound DJ Productions. We do mixing, monitoring, recording, and editing for all your audio needs. For our local listeners in the Skagit area, we are taking bookings for your 2019 events and parties. We have a wide array of music from any genre. Please allow us to help you make these memories last forever. Contact us at 360-999-2830 or on Facebook at www.facebook.com/SOSDJPro. Join us on September 28th at the Cedro Woolley Community Center for 2019 Forest Moon Paranormal Paracon. VIP All Access passes on sale now at fmparacon.com. Your pass includes all-day admission to see the speakers and workshops, the Ghost Walk, a special VIP workshop, a special round table with the speakers, a Paracon t-shirt, and an FMP Paracon swag bag. These tickets can be purchased from fmparacon.com. Get yours today.
Hey everyone, Cole here with S4 Paranormal Radio, the official voice of Forest Moon Paranormal. Looking for a way to get the word out there about your business, group, team, or product? Let us help you. A few clicks is all it takes to get started at s-4radio.com, or you can contact me at 360-999-2830.
Welcome back to S4 with your host, Eric Cooper.
Welcome back to S4 tonight. What's the truth in movies and television? You can also find the archives at our Spreaker site and on the S4 YouTube channel for all the shows you missed in the last, well, hell, it's been almost 3 years now. Anyway, back to the show. So, we covered a lot of ground with Star Trek, with Star Wars, with Fae, with werewolves and vampires. Now let's move on to aliens. And I want to start off the two movies that started in the 60s. The Day the Earth Stood Still and War of the Worlds. I think the originals were much, much better than the remakes they did. What do you guys think?
Oh, God, yes.
Actually,
sorry. With War of the Worlds, it's tough because none of the modern adaptations, to me, captured the horror of the original. Because keep in mind, when H.G. Wells wrote War of the Worlds, the height of technology was a steam engine and black powder cannons, musketry. So you have what we would even consider by our standards a pushover army was going against these, technologically advanced machines with horses, cavalry and cannons.
Right.
And I think that their attempt to get that in line with the original War of the Worlds movie, where they dropped our biggest weapon of the time, the H-bomb, and it had no effect. You know, they tried to capture that, but I don't think it really had the same impact. At least it didn't to me.
Well, no, they even disintegrated the tanks. They had Sherman tanks coming towards them, and you know, they just get disintegrating them as well.
No, Worlds of Worlds is the one that was done on the radio show first, though, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
When
so I think that is the best one of them.
Well, yeah.
The 60s ones, I don't think it has anywhere near the expansion factor that one would have.
No, and you know, we've told the story about Concrete in, you know, on the show a few times. And
yeah.
and it's funny, but it's not. If you put yourself, you know, living here in Concrete in the 1900s when they first came out with War of the Worlds radio show, and they brought it out with a radio broadcast, like a news telecast, and all of a sudden the power goes out. And think about that. All of a sudden the power goes out right after they start a quote-unquote newscast that the aliens have invaded. And everyone's got, you know, no one's got power. No one's got phones. No one's got any external communication to find out it was really only a radio show. And so everyone grabbed their guns because, well, they're watching the sky because they think aliens are coming down. And, you know, and that actually hit nationwide news about Concrete, Washington.
One of the interesting things about that, though, is the papers ginned it up. I mean, yes, there were isolated incidents like that, and there were some, you know, people that didn't catch on or tuned in late, or, you know, because the way the broadcast was set up, it was introduced. It's not like they just cut away and, you know, started this. It was, you know, the Mercury Radio Theater presents a work, you know, of H.G. Wells produced by, or, you know, they explained what it was. The papers of the day ginned it up and made it sound like, you know, portrayed it as more of a panic because William Randolph Hearst, who owned so much of the paper publishing, was not happy to see how radio was cutting into his profits.
Right.
People were dropping papers to go to, you know, were listening to radio more and more and buying fewer and fewer papers. So he was trying to make it look, you know, trying to give radio a bloody nose. And that's how the Hearst publications ginned up the panic value of that movie or that production.
But, you know, I don't think Tom Cruise does the movie justice with the, you know, with a more updated one.
Mm.
You know, yeah, it showed him more. I don't think he was the right actor to portray it. Just my opinion.
No, he was a popular actor.
Right. You know, he could do no wrong at the time, and I just don't think. I'm afraid with him, any movie Tom Cruise is in, Tom Cruise plays one character, Tom Cruise.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, he does Tom Cruise amazingly well because he's been doing Tom Cruise his whole life.
Well, I think,
you know, any movie you see him in, you expect to see him come skating across the you know, the scene in his socks and his underwear.
Yeah.
You know, so
I think he did great in Top Gun, and I think he should have stopped at that.
Well, he did good in The Last Samurai. That's one of those movies I was kind of a captive audience on and didn't really want to see because it had Tom Cruise in. It's like, damn, that really was a good movie.
Yeah, yeah.
Despite Tom Cruise.
Now,
okay, who would you have cast in that role then?
You know what?
Who would you?
I'm thinking. I think when you look at a family man, I think Mel Gibson would have done good.
You don't think people would have identified too much with him being Riggs or Mad Max?
No.
Or do you think that would have worked to the advantage?
I think that would have, worked to his advantage. I think when you look at him in the role in Patriot, as a fighter, he's done several roles that were all diverse. I mean, you can see him as Riggs. You can see him as Braveheart. You can see him as he was in. He did good in Ransom. You look at all the different roles he's played. He does good as a family man portrayal, which I think the heroic family man, the father that's protecting his kids. And that's really what he was doing that's what Tom Cruise was trying to do, as that character. I think Mel Gibson would have been great in it.
I tell you, if that movie had come along when the actor was mature enough to play that role, Martin Freeman. Most people know him as young Bilbo Baggins from the Hobbit movies.
Okay.
But Martin Freeman did a kind of an independent movie in which he's a man it's one of those zombie apocalypse movies, and he's playing the role of the father trying to get the child to safety. And he does a friggin' phenomenal job.
Okay.
Yeah, he's much more than Bilbo Baggins.
So I was just trying to figure out if that was before Passion of the Christ or after. Unfortunately, it was a year after. He wouldn't have done a great job at all. That movie would have made nothing.
Nah, he made enemies. He made enemies in that role.
Yes.
But, so I was looking that up, right? And it just announced that he's making a sequel to Passion of the Christ.
Oh.
How do you make a sequel? Jesus dies. It's kind of like, it's like trying to make a sequel to Titanic.
Well,
it's too well known a story to have a sequel to, I would think.
But they actually are doing a sequel to Titanic, a real life sequel.
Oh my!
Yeah.
There's a British company that's actually building a Titanic replica, right down to everything in the original Titanic, and they're going to sail it in the exact same pattern, with no technology, with all the same. I mean, that's just that's a bad move. Can you imagine all the spirits?
We had that touring Titanic exhibit come to Greensboro, North Carolina, and you go, you pay your admission, and they give you a name, and it's not until you go through the entire exhibit you find out, did you make it or not? I was author who died. My stepdaughter was somebody who lived. Forgot who Donna was. But anyhow, it was... But as you're going through there, they had mock-ups of, like, the basic, not steerage, but the, just what the lowest, ticket that would get you into a room of your own was. And it was dang nice. I mean, it was real nice. Even the their low budget saver room was beautiful, well appointed.
Right.
And of course they had what a first class cabin would look like, and you're like, I ain't getting off this boat. I'm living on this thing.
Now, when we're talking, I think Close Encounters of a Third Kind will be the third in line when it comes to. I do like the remake of The Day the Earth Stood Still. I think it was Keanu Reeves that was in that one.
Yeah.
And that one I do think was done well.
Can I take you back to War of the Worlds quick?
Yeah.
I have a question about that.
Okay.
What do you think the possibilities of that one being a government experiment?
To see how people react to aliens coming down here?
Yes.
I think it was too soon. So if you go back 2 years ago when we actually... What year did the original come out? Was that the
The day the Earth stood still?
No, War of the Worlds.
Oh, War of the World? The broadcast or the movie?
So if you look at the if you look at the Orson Welles version of the radio broadcast, I do believe that was potentially. And that was in what, the 1900s?
That's what I'm asking about.
1938.
Right now.
Okay,
that was 1938.
1938, according to some theories, yes, it was. It was the government paid Orson Welles to create that to see what kind of panic it would cause.
Yeah, they raked him over the coals and brought him in front of Congress to kind of cover their tracks, too.
Yeah.
Yeah. He had to answer for that.
But it answered their question as to what kind of havoc it would cause should the government come out and say, yes, there's aliens here. And it was
then we never got past the Brookings report after that.
No.
In the, 50s, the Brookings report, or the 60s, when the Brookings report said, cats will mate with dogs, financial and religious institutions will crumble and all that. We're still kind of stuck in that mindset from 40 years ago.
They do say opposites attract.
Right. So, no, good question, though. But if you look up Dante Centauri, that is some of the theories that he actually brings up as well.
Okay.
So.
It just, I always kind of wondered that, if there's more to that than was actually let on.
Yeah, and I forgot about that, actually, because I actually... I remember the movie, but I forget about the radio broadcast.
Because, when I watch these movies for the first time, usually, and, I'm not talking about the remakes. Like, when I watched the original 1960s version when my dad finally showed me the War of the Worlds. Mm-hmm. And then, Aliens. Or another good one would have been The Arrival.
And we'll get to The Arrival. We're kind of progressing.
No, I'm just bringing these up because I'm saying every time I watch one, it does give me about half an hour afterwards that I think, what's the possibility?
So there's two of them, though, because there's Charlie Sheen with Arrival, and there's the newer one from 2 years ago called The Arrival. Both excellent movies. And what's interesting about the Charlie Sheen version is the way the aliens' knees bend backwards, because that is a real race. That's an actual race that their knees bend that way. And that's why I wish Keith was with us tonight, because Keith could actually tell you what race it was and whatnot. The other aliens that I like portrayed are the ones in Battleship.
I've never seen that movie.
Are you serious? Oh, wow.
I've never seen it. I don't know why. I just never got around to it. You'd think that would be... I started to watch the rip-off version, Warships, that had Mario Van Peebles in it, but I didn't get very far into it.
No, it's actually got Rihanna in it, the singer. I'm trying to remember who else is in it. But what I like about Battleship...
Liam Neeson, I think, was in it.
Yeah. But I like Battleship for many reasons. One is the soldiers that are used in it are actual wounded warriors. They actually use real wounded warriors in the movie. And if you watch, I'm not going to spoil it, but if you watch the movie, you'll see the ones I'm talking about. He's actually got titanium legs, and he is an actual vet. But yeah, the Wounded Warriors that we're using are actual veterans, and were used as actors in the background, as well as actors in the movie. The second aspect I like is how they showed this particular alien race. You know, they have beards. They have, they show the aliens. They have different jobs. They're soldiers. They have some that are soldiers. They have some that are intelligence. They have some that are communications. They have different jobs, just like the U.S. military does. They act just like we do when we invade a country ourselves. Well done movie, and I love how they use the battleship in the end. And I'm going to leave it at that. But awesome movie. And then, of course, we have The Arrival. And The Arrival, it really pisses me off because it actually shows what humans really would do. Our government, our military would actually shoot at aliens without knowing whether they're good or bad, just like they do in that movie.
You know what we need?
What's that?
We need a president like Stephen Colbert on Monsters vs. Aliens. Do you remember that cartoon?
Not the president, no. I remember the cartoon, yeah.
Stephen Colbert, when the aliens first arrive, he goes up this flight of stairs, and at the end of it is a piano, like a keyboard, and he starts playing.
Oh yeah. I do remember
a techno track.
I do remember that.
That's how we need to greet them.
Well, we kind of did with the CD that we sent off into space.
Yeah,
it's got Beethoven and yeah. I'm trying to think of all the other myriad of alien movies. I love Independence Day 2. It goes a lot more into the history of the alien race that's invading, and of course we shoot down the good ones. But again, if we had Keith on, he could actually go into, because the alien race is portrayed in Independence Day is an actual race. The alien that's portrayed in Predator is an actual race, and not a bad race either, if I remember right. I know he's been on the show. He's talked about the Predator race before. They're not a negative race. But don't waste your time with the new Predator movie because, it frankly sucks. Have you seen the new one yet?
No, it just came on our HBO, I think, and I was going to watch it. But the problem is any of these remakes that they do, we are expecting something, and we're never going to get it.
No, once they master it, they can't replicate it again.
No, and it's not even that. Like, you look at, the original 3 Star Wars films.
Mm-hmm.
Every space scene was done with models. There was no CGI back then.
Blue screen was about as CGI as it got.
Yeah, and even that was hardly used. Like, it honestly... He filmed so much of it in just dark rooms with light projected the correct way. And with him being able to make that amazing of a scene, once you CGI it, it's nothing. It's not real.
No.
I feel sorry for kids today because okay, Star Wars, it's like younger people are like, what was so big about Star Wars? And they will never know the awe. So many things that were done in Star Wars were done the first time ever in Star Wars. The way the way the opening scene goes back and up and back. The way that huge cruiser comes over your head from up, the whole thing was just a jaw dropper for that era. That movie, nothing like it had ever been seen before. And I think that the impact of that is missed completely by young audiences. They have no idea because they've gotten jaded. Even if the remastered versions of Star Wars, the original films, they pale in comparison to a movie like Arrival or even Alien Covenant or Prometheus. Neither which movie I really care for that much, but just the wow factor in the IMAX 3D. How do you how does a 1970s movie even hope to compare? The fact that they're still relevant shows how good of films they were, because when you see what's out there, to catch our eyes, it's kind of like Invaders from Mars or something. Yeah, these old 50s movies that nobody remembers anymore because they pale.
Absolutely.
I'm trying to remember the name of the movie. It was Neighborhood Block Watch, I think it was. And it was kind of a comedy, but kind of a comedy drama.
The Watch.
The Watch. There you go. And it's kind of like a Costco that's taken over by the aliens. Is that the same? Is that the right one?
Oh, yeah. I vaguely remember that.
Now that one was
cool.
I
think I've seen that.
And it's little movies like that don't come out as alien movies. You don't think about, The Watch. You think this, these little band of misfits are crime fighters, and they stumble into an alien invasion. And, the funny parts were funny, but it made you think at the same time, if you're in this field anyway. And that's another one I suggest people go out and watch, because it's cool, it's entertaining. Is it based on fact? Nah, probably not. It reminded me of Art Bell's, the guy that went on Art Bell that said he killed an alien and put it in the freezer because they put the alien in the freezer and whatnot, and he's not dead and comes back to life and runs away. And they want to kill him anyway.
That.
But
I remember hearing that broadcast the first time it aired.
Yeah. And so the Watch. I don't think it made really big ratings. I liked it. It had I can't remember his name. The guy that was in the Fockers. Meet the Fockers.
Yeah. Ben
Stiller?
Ben
Stiller. Ben Stiller?
Yeah, there you go. It has Ben Stiller in it.
Ben Stiller, Seth Rogen, Aziz Ansari.
Yeah, that was a interesting movie. And again, not one you would generally chalk up in the alien genre, although it was an alien genre movie.
But like what with Markham was saying, he's right. Like, kids these days will never have some of the things we did growing up. And it's because they're desensitized to this stuff. There is so much of it out now that none of it matters. Like with Star Wars. And I didn't bring this up earlier because I couldn't remember the exact number. Do you know it only released in 32 theaters across the United States?
Originally in the 70s?
The opening day was 32 theaters. They added 8 more theaters on Thursday and Friday. Lucas didn't attend opening night.
Huh. Okay.
He went out to lunch with his wife, and as they were walking, they walked past the Man's Chinese Theater for the first showing, and he noticed that there was a large crowd. That's how he figured out it did well.
Well, I remember when it came on, we went to the one theater that everybody knew it was at. My dad drove by, saw the line, said he wasn't, I can't repeat his aphorism, but needless to say, we weren't going to stand in that line because it was just ungodly. So we're on the way home, and I'm in the back seat. I'm really, my day was ruined. And this little theater in Niles called the Reedy that was one of those old, I think it was a converted opera house. It was a beautiful theater and stuff. It had it. Well, nobody expected that little theater because they usually had what was on at the drive-ins. This was second run stuff. There was no line at the Reedy to see Star Wars.
Yeah,
so my day was salvaged.
It was going to do well. He didn't believe it was going to do well, so he actually made plans to be in Hawaii with his wife, it says here. And it has had such a huge impact on our idea of space.
For me, I got taken to see 2001: A Space Odyssey when it was in the theater. Because face it, folks, that's the only way you saw movies when I was a kid. Sometimes they cycled back around as the movie of the week or something on TV, but for the most part, you saw them at the theater or you didn't see them. I was 5 years old, and that movie, like I said, I couldn't have grasped. I know as a 5-year-old, there's no way I grasped the complexity of that film.
No.
But there was enough there that just, it turned me into a sci-fi geek from 5 years. At 5 years old, I was committed because it was that, Stanley Kubrick knew how to make a movie that could communicate across age and, just that was the movie that set the bar for science fiction to me.
And, it's funny because as a kid, I was never into science fiction. I wasn't into Star Wars. I wasn't into Star Trek. I wasn't into UFOs or space or, growing up as a kid, was the concept of alien life out there? It could have been, but it wasn't my interest. It just, whatever. If they're here, the one thing that I do remember as a child under 12 is watching a black and white UFO documentary one time, and it freaked me out because they showed this alien that came out of the craft. Now I don't remember what movie it was, or if it was a movie, or if it was a documentary, but it showed this robot jelly-looking thing with lights on it. And, I was like, that's kind of creepy. And that's the extent of anything UFO that I remember as a child. Other than that, my friends had the Millennial Falcon. They had R2-D2 and C-3PO, and they were all they were into Star Wars. They loved Star Wars. I wasn't. I like Twilight Zone. Twilight Zone was
the Millennium Falcon.
What did I say?
Millennial Falcon.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, it's not a cupcake.
Oh, but yeah, no, I was. It wasn't my thing. I didn't get into aliens or UFOs until 1994 when I was literally thrown into the abduction scenario.
But you guys, so like growing up in the 60s and 70s even, you guys were, when it was released to you, it was a major shock. Like Close Encounters, War of the Worlds, those were major shocks. But they weren't every day. Do you know what I mean?
Well, World of Worlds was an eye candy movie because you had such a sleek, those alien, those Martian death ray machines, those flying machines that looked like manta rays, and the squidgy little dude with the three primary color, the segmented eyeball that was, that was like fun to see. But it wasn't like, oh, this isn't serious sci-fi. This is just, this is like a monster movie, with spaceships in it.
Yeah.
Close Encounters was a completely different, when that came out, my God, that was an amazing movie.
Yeah.
My family was interested in it because those opening scenes are supposed to be Muncie, Indiana. Cornbread Road is a real road in the area of Muncie, Indiana. Well, that's where I was born. That's where my family came from. So we were kind of interested in it at that point. But then when it unfolds, I think that was really the way I consider, by my definition of science fiction, fiction based on science. To me, Star Wars is science fantasy. But, Close Encounters was more science fiction in that it was plausible.
Mm-hmm.
There was nothing that wasn't scientifically plausible.
And what I thought was really cool about Close Encounters is how they use, tone and sound, because I think that's realistic. Using tone and sound for communication.
Right, because what would be the mathematical, what they say is mathematics is the universal language. Well, what is the voice of math?
Mm-hmm.
Music. You assign tones to time signature, it's all mathematics. And I thought that was a brilliant idea.
And realistic. Just like you said. And, when you look at how they showed the government trying to keep people away with dead animals.
Right.
That is realistic. They would do that.
Well, it seems to me there were some incidents back in the 60s or 70s where the government killed a bunch of some sheep farmers' flock or some cattle farmers' flocks. There was some nerve gas accidents or something, or they said they were accidents. I think they were just field testing like they did in Nashville, Tennessee, where they subjected the population to a disease through Vanderbilt.
And I could see them actually doing that. And that reminds me. I think it was the Village of the Damned, where all the children were alien.
Yeah, they had the glowing eyes, and they were all kind of like clones with the Dutch boy haircuts and everything. Yeah.
And so where did they come up with these ideas? What I like about Spielberg, it was Spielberg that actually went to Ronald Reagan and showed Ronald Reagan the first showing of, I think it was E.T. Was it E.T.?
Yeah, that's one where he told him he didn't know how close he got
to the truth he was. Exactly. And, and so tonight we're talking about movies, and is there fact based on movies? Well, Steven Spielberg was one that was based on fact and actually told Reagan. And moving along, you have Chris Carter, who has actually come out, in the past and said it was the government that gave him the ideas for many of the X-Files television shows. And so is it really a stretch that George Lucas was given information for Star Wars?
I honestly believe it is. It's. I don't believe he had. I think if he had more information, if he actually had information, he would have concentrated more on the alien races than the story itself.
Yeah, because his the main, and by Lucas, by his own admission, he invited Joseph Campbell, the author of The Power of Myth, to the ranch, and they holed up together for like a 3-day weekend going over the elements that would become Star Wars. Star Wars was a science fiction version of the cycle of the hero.
Okay.
Every element in Joseph Campbell's cycle of the hero is in Star Wars.
Okay, so it's purely based on the mind of the creator.
I honestly believe so with that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it is. I think it was George Lucas taking what he learned, what he read in Joseph Campbell's books, The Power of Myth, and some of these other. I cannot get the name of the one to pull out of my memory, but that was his inspiration. The hero's journey. And by both, I've heard interviews with both Lucas and Joseph Campbell where they discuss how, Joseph Campbell says how he was invited to Lucas's ranch and they went over this theme and how it worked through how it would eventually work through the script that would become Star Wars.
Okay. What about Star Trek?
I think Gene Roddenberry had a lot of. There's a book called Inside Star Trek that any true fan should read because it kind of takes the polish off Roddenberry. Because in a lot of ways, Roddenberry was a jerk. Okay, he was a genius in how he did this, but Alexander Courage wrote that well-known theme song for Star Trek.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he made the mistake of not copywriting it before he left it on Gene Roddenberry's desk. Gene, ever the opportunist, takes the sheet music, looks at, and writes these god awful lyrics to it. A lot of people don't realize there are lyrics to the Star Trek song, and they're awful. Then Roddenberry puts his, music by Alexander Courage, lyrics by Gene Roddenberry, and he copyrights it. So now Alexander Courage has to share a split of the royalties that song produces with Roddenberry. And Roddenberry did a lot of sneaky crap like that. But I think if you look at the basic Star Trek thing, it's all about equality among the races and among the genders. He was kind of putting out a progressive message, but putting it out in such a way people didn't realize it was a progressive message.
What I find interesting, though, is the technology. Because, they portrayed the cell phone in very much... the cell phone you see today.
Yeah, like a flip phone.
Right. Exactly.
The old Motorola flip phones. It always amazed me when cell phones came out that nobody made a cell phone that looked like a Star Trek communicator. I hate phones, and I'd have bought a dozen of them damn things if they'd have come out.
I look at some of those shows, and I have to... And then, moving to Supernatural, Supernatural's got a lot of fact-based, when it comes to the Wendigo, when it comes to the, a lot of the creatures they go after, they kind of went, off on left field. I think the first 3 seasons were probably the best seasons of Supernatural. And that's when they actually, chased creatures. And then they kind of went off and they all became demons and they went to hell and they came back and went back to hell and came back and it just got stupid. And I think about midway through the 3rd season is when they started going, how many times did they die and come back? After a while, when they lose the focus, which the focus should have been chasing creatures, and not, after a while it's just, got to keep the fans happy.
Well, you got to figure, writing a weekly series like that has got to be a brain drain. I mean, even if you take a series like, I loved Stargate SG-1.
Right.
But you could tell by the last couple seasons, it's like the imagination taps were starting to drip. The well was running dry,
And I think maybe that's where if they're getting the information from outside sources, and if it's just coming from someone's imagination. Because if it's coming from outside sources, that's not going to drain.
Unless you come across, you get to where it's like you have an outside source feeding, you say there's a government source feeding truth into your storyline, but there's a limit.
And that could be too.
We can't go past that, because if we shoot if we add this one last piece of the puzzle, all the pieces are going to fall into place and we'll have an accidental disclosure.
Yeah.
Which, to me, disclosure happened when the UFOs flew over D.C. in 56?
52.
52, yeah. Disclosure happened, folks. But I think there's a point where the well could run dry because your information, it's like, okay, that's all I can give you. You'll have to take it from there.
So 2 shows I'm waiting to come back. Stranger Things, which I believe comes out the next
July
season.
4th.
Is it July 4th?
Season 3 is July 4th.
I heard it was May.
So did I, but
no,
I was wrong.
It's July 4th. I had Netflix just for that. I wanted to catch up on The Magicians and for whatchamacallit, Stranger Things.
So Lucifer comes out in 3 days.
Yeah.
I like that series too.
Yep. And we have to watch the 3rd season so we can get caught back up and refresh our memories on what's going on before the next season comes in 3 days.
Kayla and I just watched a new series that was actually really, really good.
What's that?
The Umbrella Academy.
Yes. Oh my God. No spoilers, but there's a certain dignified character that toward the end, that last episode, it's like, oh my God, no, they couldn't. Yes. Umbrella Academy.
The one I wish they'd bring back is Warehouse 13.
I enjoyed that. I know.
That's one we need to bring back.
I had Bill Burns on one of the shows on my network and asked him straight out, did you get canceled because you got too close to the truth?
Oh.
And his unequivocal answer is yes. The Dulce, New Mexico episode where they showed that mutated, some kind of fetus or something. Anyhow, they pulled the plug after that episode. Bill Burns will tell you, and he won't He won't mealy-mouth it. He won't say it in an indirect manner. He will flat out say, UFO Hunters was canceled because they got too close to the truth.
Yeah.
They revealed too much.
And
they went past their handlers.
It was actually the Men in Black, I believe, that came and told him, we've pulled the plug. If I remember right.
Yeah, it was...
The other one
got too close to the truth, disclosed something they weren't supposed to, and the plug was pulled.
The other one that needs to come back is Jesse Ventura's conspiracy theory. That's another one I enjoyed.
Yeah, I like the one where he went to Bigelow Aerospace.
He doesn't pull any punches.
Mm-mm.
And so Markham Joe is in the chat, and he says it all boils down to Dulce, New Mexico, where you sold his hair to an alien.
Yes, I did. Actually, Elizabeth did. But I had a phaser on me the whole time. I could not fight. I was outnumbered, Joe. I'm sorry.
Was it a Jawa? Was it a Jawa? Those are crafty little buggers.
No, it was a reptilian. They want to clone an army of Joes.
Yeah. And we're actually about 8 minutes away from the top of the second hour, and then we're gonna go into some paranormal TV shows and talk a little more about the spirit side.
You know, one alien movie that most people forget about?
E.T.?
Flight of the Navigator.
Loved it. Oh my God, I love that movie. I want to see a modern remake of that.
And it was a good kid show for kids. Like, it's a Disney
enjoyed
movie.
it as an adult. I think I was in my late 20s, early 30s, and I loved it.
I'm gonna have to go back and watch it again.
You know, it's one of those movies that doesn't age well, because there's things about it that are kind of too kiddified once you get older. But at the time I saw it, I thought that was a butt kicker. The ship was awesome. The AI and the whole mission of the ship and everything was great.
Now,
I think one that went under the radar. I mean, it did all right in the box office. A couple years ago, that movie Arrival, where they have to take a completely alien language. I mean, and we're looking at where part of the thing was what the vocalizations the aliens made had nothing to do with what they were actually communicating.
No, it was all symbol.
And they had to start from, nothing. I thought that was one of the most cerebral and enjoyable for, somebody like me with a science background. That was probably one of the most enjoyable movies I'd seen since Contact with Jodie Foster.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That's right.
That's an amazing movie.
Now, and I think The Arrival is probably closer to scientific fact, too, because, you talk about music and tone, but you also look at the symbology. You look at symbols and the language that they portray. And if you've seen Independence Day 2, was not the circles that they use in that language very similar to the languages they show in Independence Day 2?
I have never seen Independence Day 2. I heard so many people that just say, oh, it sucked, and blah, 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 that I never got around to seeing it.
You need to watch it because they show a lot more of the history of that alien race.
And I got to say to that point, for anyone who, really enjoys movies, when it comes down to it, if you walk into a sequel or a prequel or even a trilogy expecting the same thing, don't waste your money. Because you're not going to get it. Ever.
One?
Any of them. When it comes to sequels, prequels, and trilogies, the first one, the second one, the third one, none of them will compare to that first one. Ever.
No.
Mm.
No.
No, because usually the first one opens doorways and creates synaptic bridges that, that weren't there before, and you expect that same rush or that same high from the next one, and it's like, that fell flat. As much as I love Guardians of the Galaxy, and love the film, both films, I have to say the emotional impact and the enjoyment of the first Guardians of the Galaxy outweighs by far the second.
Well, that's the thing. You got to go into it expecting new stuff. So, like for me with Guardians, I went into it expecting a new soundtrack because that was 90% of that movie, and I got it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But I gotta say too, the way they pulled them into the Avengers, I thought was cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
They pulled them all together, and it really, really ticks me off how they're ending it.
I haven't seen it.
No,
I've unfriended people because they started talking about it. So shut up, Eric.
No.
Exactly.
I haven't seen
spoilers.
I haven't seen the new one yet. It's not released
All I've
yet.
been told is be prepared to cry.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen trailers, different trailers of how it's supposedly going to end. I haven't seen it, but just the fact that they're killing off the Avengers and ending the Avengers is yeah, this is the last Avengers.
Oh my God! You just spoiled that for me. Thank you.
No, they've said that.
I told you I hadn't seen the damn thing. Why'd you have to go and spoil it?
No,
okay.
The contract's over. They can't make any more Avengers.
Well, yes, they can.
Oh, they can.
The contract, the contract's over for this universe.
Okay.
But it's a multiverse. They can open it up again, but they have to feature different characters. And because Disney just acquired Fox, that means Wolverine can join the Avengers.
Okay. Huh.
Change subject. I don't want no more spoilers. I already.
I've
been trying to keep myself totally.
None of us.
I haven't even watched trailers.
None of us have seen anything of this last one. It's not released yet, so we don't know. Other than contracts have ended, and they're not going to have the same. It's not going to ever be the same.
We did honestly, though, have to expect it to end soon because a lot of the actors are getting older.
Yeah.
They are.
Yeah.
They are.
I mean, how long can a 50 and 60-year-olds play? That was one of the realistic things about the last, what was it, Logan? He was getting to the point where, hey, this isn't realistic anymore.
Well, and the Expendables.
Yeah.
Look at the Expendables, and you see all of their ages. I mean, they even. Oh my God! I think it was Expendables 2. They had. Oh God, what's his name? The karate guy.
He's a joke, constantly. Chuck Norris.
Chuck Norris.
Chuck Norris?
They had Chuck Norris in the second one. I mean, all of their age is just, even... Yeah.
Yeah, they're all older than me because, Rocky, Sylvester Stallone, my God, he was an adult when I saw the first Rocky movie.
Right.
And I was just a kid, so, it's...
All right, folks, we got to go to break. This is the last break of the show. And when we come back, we're going to go into a little more of the supernatural and the spirit side of things. So stay tuned.
You are listening to S4 on Spreaker.com.
Come get spooked at the 4th Annual Forest Moon Paracon in Cedar-Woolley, Washington, Saturday, September 28th. UFOs, ghosts, aliens, Bigfoot. Speakers include Mike Morin and Jason Jordan, R. Keith Andrews, and Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio, and so much more. There will be workshops and a VIP roundtable. Get early bird tickets now at fmparacon.com.
Well, hello there. Us here at S4 would like to remind you out there that the UFOI team weekly meetings are broadcast live on Facebook from Denny's, where America eats, each Monday night, 6 to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time at UFOI Team on Facebook. The UFOI team's gear, product store, and newsletter are located on their website at ufoiteam.com. To contact the UFOI team with your sightings report or a paranormal story, send an email to theufoiteam@gmail.com. Keep looking up and tell us your story.
Forest Moon Paranormal is a non-for-profit emergency response team that handles all aspects of the paranormal, helping you, your family, friends, and community since 2004. Whether you're having a problem with hauntings, spirits, Bigfoot, other types of cryptids, or UFO activity. Maybe you're just unsure of what's bothering or terrifying you. Or maybe you're just afraid of criticism and disbelief. FMP is here for you. We handle cases globally and locally from our headquarters in Skagit County, Washington. We never accept any form of payment for our services and are 100% confidential. You can find us on Facebook under Forest Moon Paranormal. You can private message us for assistance, or just come join in the discussion and become part of our growing FMP community.
Hello, my name's Cole Wegleitner with Statement of Sound DJ Productions. We do mixing, monitoring, recording, and editing for all your audio needs. For our local listeners in the Skagit area, we are taking bookings for your 2019 events and parties. We have a wide array of music from any genre. Please allow us to help you make these memories last forever. Contact us at 360-999-2830 or on Facebook at www.facebook.com/SOSDJPro. Join us on September 28th at the Cedar-Woolley Community Center for 2019 Forest Moon Paranormal Paracon. VIP All Access passes on sale now at fmparacon.com. Your pass includes all-day admission to see the speakers and workshops, the Ghost Walk, a special VIP workshop, a special round table with the speakers, a Paracon t-shirt, and an FMP Paracon swag bag. These tickets can be purchased from fmparacon.com. Get yours today.
Hey everyone, Cole here with S4 Paranormal Radio, the official voice of Forest Moon Paranormal. Looking for a way to get the word out there about your business, group, team, or product? Let us help you. A few clicks is all it takes to get started at s-4radio.com, or you can contact me at 360-999-2830.
Welcome back to S4 with your host, Eric Cooper.
Welcome back to S4 Tonight. What's the truth in movies and television? You can also find the archives at our Spreaker site and on the S4 YouTube channel for all the shows you missed in the last 3 years. Anyway, back to the show. So we've covered a lot of Alien. We've covered, I believe, science fiction in general. But what we haven't covered, other than Chewbacca, I think, is Bigfoot. I think, honestly, the only Bigfoot portrayal in film that I like, and that I can even remember, is really Harry and the Hendersons.
Absolutely.
And
there is a new one I just saw that is really, it's an independent film, and it's really well done. Lance Henriksen's in it. It's all, if you're trying to search it, that's the best I can do. Is say, look for Lance Henriksen's filmography. He's in it.
Okay.
But it was a really well done Bigfoot as territorial, I'm going to eat your butt type, like more like the Plains Indians portray Bigfoot.
But is it a documentary or is it a movie?
It's a movie, but I mean the way it's done. And it's not a found footage or anything like that. It's a dark Bigfoot movie.
Okay. I'll have to look for that one.
It's not the usual cheesy evil Bigfoot. It's just this Bigfoot is behaving the way it does for a reason.
Okay.
It's not. They're not particularly sympathetic, but it's not like he's
being an ass.
He's being true to a nature that we would consider dark.
Okay.
Let me see if I can find that. I'll post it in the chat room if I can.
So I'll have to look for that one. But
there's a new one on Netflix that's freaking hilarious.
About Bigfoot?
Yes.
Oh, no.
Do you want to know the title?
Yes.
It's called The Man Who Killed Hitler and Then the Bigfoot.
Oh, I almost watched that the other day, but I didn't. That just looked too...
It's got Sam Elliott in it.
Oh, wow.
Okay, I'm going to watch it.
Like, how far has he fallen that he'll actually make that kind of movie?
Yeah.
He must have enjoyed it.
I expect more from Sam Elliott, though.
I think I just found... Yes, it's called Big Legend 2018.
Okay.
And it's you can tell it's not, I think it's got like 5 people in it. It's not a found footage. It's well shot. For the most part, it's well acted, and the theme behind it is pretty good. It's on IMDb. It gets 4.5 out of 5 stars.
Well, that ain't bad.
And they're kind of tough. So
yeah.
But yeah, it's called Big Legend, and I'll tell you right up, it's not the warm and fuzzy Harry and the Hendersons type Bigfoot.
Harry and the Hendersons was good for family. That was a good family. It wasn't good in the regard that let's go out and Bigfoot's all furry and cuddly and a good guy by any means. But for the time, because I believe that was what, a 90s flick.
God, it'd have to be because Don Amici was in it, and he died.
1987.
Yeah, okay.
1987, okay. Yeah, I was going to say, Don Amici was dead by 92, I think.
That was good for its time. I wouldn't want to see it redone. It just wouldn't be the same, like you and I were talking earlier, Cole.
I will hurt people.
No.
Well, that movie is... I mean, that movie, there could be no sequel. There could be... You really couldn't do anything with it. Yeah, because It was one of those self-contained movies.
Not anymore. You know what? If they would have done it in like 2 years later, they could have done a sequel. It would have been a B-rated movie of like a spoof of it where Harry goes to a mall type thing.
Yeah,
but they
it
could
would
have
been
done
one of those direct-to-DVD or direct-to-VHS release.
They couldn't do it now. If I remember right, though, it did get a TV show.
Now, Joe's in the chat room. He says Willow Creek. Willow Creek, directed by Bobcat Goldthwait.
Yeah, I see that one here.
And
I have seen that. Yeah, it is pretty. That one, I think I've seen that one.
And it's a Bigfoot theme?
Yeah.
Okay, another one I have to look for. But you really don't see, which is funny to me, you don't see Bigfoot as a theme in movies so much.
Not in not in A-list type movies.
No.
I mean, there's a lot of potboiler, man in a monkey suit, grade B. Well, actually, they'd really have to upgrade to get to grade B. We're talking grade Z movies. There's tons of them. Alex Exum made one called, something Bigfoot. It was dreadful.
So is that because nobody can beat Chewbacca?
He's pretty hard to beat.
Yeah.
Remember, the Wookiee always wins.
Yeah, the Wookiee, yeah. Because he can tear your arm off and beat you with it beat you to death with your own arm, yeah.
Harry and the Hendersons, by the way, did get a TV show afterwards. It went on for 3 seasons.
Oh, wow. Okay.
No kidding. I never saw it. That must have come out when I was in college and didn't have much time to watch TV.
Nope.
It was, if I remember right, it was one of the TGIF shows. From ABC.
I'd have to look for that, I reckon.
It was on at the same time, well, not the same time, but like right after Dinosaurs, if you remember that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I never watched that either. I missed that.
I did. I was all about it.
Let's see, so that would have been 87. Yeah, no, I was in the Army by then, so I would have missed all that fun stuff.
No, TV series was 91 to 93.
I was in the Army.
That was right. Yeah, that was my first. That was my first years. And, I started college in 91. I had zip time for. My big thing in that era was on Saturdays, I got to watch Deep Space Nine and I think Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, and Babylon 5.
Yeah, I did.
That was my Saturday.
I didn't have a whole lot of time for movies or TV a whole lot in my Army time. I watched X-Files.
Yes.
I remember that. I was in Germany for a lot of that time, and so all of our TV shows were like 3-4 months behind because we had Armed Forces Network, AFN, and
AFARTS, yeah, Armed Forces Radio TV, sir.
Yep. So there's a lot of movies I just haven't heard of because, well, I didn't have a lot of time for movies. Every once in a while we go to the base theater and catch something that was probably 6 months to a year behind. But yeah, no, there's a lot of movies that slips through the cracks.
Yeah.
So now.
I'm noticing a lot of the Bigfoot movies that came out, because there's a list of about 20 of them.
Okay.
Only about 5 aren't horror movies.
And that's interesting. But it also makes sense. Because anytime you get a creature that is unknown, you're going to make them a horror.
Yeah, but some of these are, I don't see how that one's about Bigfoot. It's called Night of the Demon.
Here we go. So we portray Bigfoot as a demon then.
It's a professor and his students have a grisly encounter with a Sasquatch-like creature that prowls the backwoods.
Yeah. I would say Wendigo. not Bigfoot.
So like 90% of these are Bigfoot related, but not.
Right.
One of the ones from when I was a teenager is Strange Wilderness. It's not a horror film. It's like if the Irwin kids took over Steve Irwin's show but sucked at it. So they go and find Bigfoot instead, trying to make money.
Yeah. Okay.
I think I've actually seen that.
Yeah, it had...
Or started to watch it and just couldn't make it through it.
Well, it had a good cast. Like, it had Jason Long in it. Like, for that time period, it had a good cast.
Mm-hmm.
So, Steve Zahn, Justin Long, Alan Covert, they were all making a lot of movies at that point. But then the rest of them they're either kids' movies or they are horror movies.
I would like to see more attention paid to supernatural creatures like skinwalkers,
Wendigo.
and Wendigo. Oh my God, I am so fascinated with that whole thing because to me, it seems like Wendigo was a way to excuse bad human behavior.
Yeah, cannibalism.
Or, desperate human. I mean, you got to think of how ungodly hungry and desperate you'd have to be to start eating people.
Yeah.
Because it goes against so much, that's just like you don't sleep with your sister, you don't marry your mother, and you don't eat people. Right. They're ingrained in our, that's just almost instinctive. And in order to have sunk to that depth where you're preying on humans,
and you don't see
to survive,
you don't see chupacabra in movies.
One time you're right. I think there was one time they kind of brushed it in X-Files.
Yeah, okay. They did.
Well, that treatment was kind of
Yeah.
And then you got the whole thing where chupacabra, we've got chupacabras down Texas. Yeah, they're coyotes with sarcoptic mange, for crying out loud.
Right.
But when Wendigo was touched with supernatural, that was the first episode.
Was
the first season? Yeah.
The Wendigo, yes.
It was the one that actually ingrained me into that show.
Oh yeah, that's why
I will look that up.
Supernatural was great for about the first 2.5 to 3 seasons because they actually touched on Bloody Mary and the Wendigo, and they actually every show was a specific supernatural creature for the first 2.5 seasons.
Then it became religious.
Then it went to they became a demon, 3 or 4 times, and they died a couple times. Went to hell, came back. It just got ridiculous.
Okay.
But Supernatural, when they first started out, was great for the first 2.5 seasons. That was it.
But I did really like how they portrayed angels.
Yeah.
I really did, because I like the fact that he has no idea how to do anything on Earth for themselves. They don't know how to use a toaster. They don't know how to use taps for water. They have no idea.
That was touched upon in the Christopher Walken movies where he's Gabriel.
Was that
Lord.
Dogma?
No. Oh, crap. I'm going to have to Google it because I can't. But it was moved. The first one, the war in heaven is going on, and they want this retired Army colonel in heaven because hell is winning, and there's nobody up there ruthless enough to take on Lucifer's army. So they're wanting
the prophecy.
Yes.
Okay.
That was touch on. Gabriel has to get a human to drive a car because he doesn't know how to drive it. He doesn't have any connection. It's like He doesn't know what computers are or how to operate them or anything like that. He has to have like minions to do that.
And that would be reality.
Like they don't know how to use sarcasm.
Well, yeah, yeah, that would be reality.
And I love that about it.
Well, you look at what a basic angel is, and they're like they're a task-driven, no free will. God says jump, they say yes, Lord, how high?
Yeah.
There's no questioning. The only time you ever get an angel that's questioning is that they made a series out of it.
Lucifer.
Yeah.
No. This was a one-off, and it pits Michael against Gabriel, and Michael is trying to save the life of this baby, because if this baby is born, it's on. I know it's on Amazon Prime and Netflix. Legion.
Yes.
Had Doug Jones in it as a
series.
Twisted.
There's a trilogy
the movie. Okay, I saw the first one and thought it was great. Had the kid that was in Sling Blade and is in NCI New Orleans. It had a good cast. It was well written, and the guy who played Michael was really a good. You kind of a sympathetic character. He has to cut his wings off. He takes his angel collar off, because all the angels, the major angels have like an obedience collar. They're collared like pets.
Right.
When Gabriel comes down, he's got the collar on his neck that shows that he's still God's angel. A supernatural book, that would make a good movie if somebody would pick it up. The artist Wayne Douglas Barlow wrote a book called Inferno, and it's about hell and a battle within, between the hierarchies in hell. And I think that would make an awesome movie.
But could they do it justice? That would be the thing.
Yes, they really could. They really could, especially with using motion capture artists and the way CGI has come up now, to where you can almost CGI, as you look at some of the first uses, Babylon 5. The CGI was not transparent. There's movies now where the CGI is damn near impossible to tell the difference. Look at the scene in Ant-Man and the Wasp, where the parents, Michael Douglas and Michelle Pfeiffer, are in it as young people, and you almost can't tell that that's a computer-generated young face on them. I mean, it's getting real close to where, I think actors better start worrying.
They
could do Inferno really well.
The Legion one was it was the Fallen Angel collection.
Okay.
And it starts with Gabriel, then Legion, and then Priest. And it isn't till the end of Priest that you find out that the other two movies fed into it.
I did not know that. I think I've seen them all out of order. Or I've seen Legion and I've seen Priest. Loved both. Priest is the one with the vampire, with Carl Urban.
And it's subtle the way they do
vampire.
Because it's just like how you had Unbreakable, and then you had Split.
Yes.
And at the very end of Split, you realize, hey, this might be part of Unbreakable, and then they brought out Glass, and boom, the whole thing makes sense.
I want to see Glass. That's one that got by me.
It's good.
Okay.
Well, I love Split. I thought Split was a fantastic movie. It was a slow burner, but it was good.
Okay, let's switch over to hauntings. Now,
for that, you got to go to The Conjuring.
Oh, Conjuring.
Yeah.
I think The Conjuring 1 and 2 and Annabelle, if you put those three together, do a very good depiction of the Warrens. And I like the way I do like the way they show, back in the 60s and 70s, how paranormal investigators investigated with, flour on the floor to look for spirit footprints, bells on strings, to basically proximity meters we have today used old school. I like that. I think that's cool because that shows progression of paranormal investigation as it is today compared to back then. They had they didn't have
laser grids and tri-field meters and
you got evidence. You didn't get something that could be fabricated. You got evidence.
Well, yeah, the laser grid pen that puts all the dots on the wall is the modern, the update of basically is flour on the floor.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I liked Rose Red. It was a horror movie. There was no fact based on Rose Red. Don't get me wrong. But Rose Red was filmed here in Seattle. Thornwood, which is right outside Fort Lewis, is actually where Rose Red was filmed, and it's actually haunted. They actually have lights. They actually have lights that come on and off and whatnot.
I'll tell you one that goes good as far as old school investigation of a haunting. What causes it, what maintains it, what helps it unravel is the George C. Scott film, I think it was 78, The Changeling.
Okay. I'll have to look at that one.
That one, I'll tell you what, that's still today, even though I know every scene by heart, there's things that happen in that movie that still make the hair stand up. What I've got left of hair stand up. My dad and I make it a point to try and watch that at least once every other year. That's one of the movies because he saw it with Mom. Mom damn near clawed his arm off at a couple scenes, and Dad does not. Movies do not usually impress Dad, and he told me that I needed to go see that one.
Oh,
that one.
Backtrack into Aliens real quick. The Abyss.
Richard Dreyfuss.
There was some crap dialogue in it, but for the most part, it was a good movie.
I think the storyline is right on. I do think there's alien races under the ocean. Look at Mariana Trench.
Well, yeah.
And that's they're kind of portraying in the movie an alien race that's living at the bottom of the Mariana Trench. And
right.
How how more factual could you is it fact? I think it very well could be. We'll never.
How does it not get eaten by the megalodon?
No, that's one that I've been trying to find an expert to bring on one of our shows on my network about, getting somebody to talk about the megalodon. I think as vast as the ocean is, there could still be a remnant population. Some of the scientists will say, well, there wouldn't be enough of a breeding population, blah, blah, blah. Well, for all intents and purposes, sharks don't really have an expiration date.
No.
Sharks apparently, from what they study on sharks, they grow and they live until something else kills them or they finally catch some kind of disease that wipes them out. But they're not necessarily, there's not a use by date on sharks. So there could be a population and they wouldn't necessarily have to be a breeding population, but a remnant population of megalodon out there.
Well, and for how long did they say that the giant squid wasn't a possibility of still being around?
Oh yeah, I mean,
and then it just showed up.
Well, the thing about the giant squid is they were finding evidence of the giant squid in whaling. They were finding chewed up giant squid inside sperm whales, or they would find a tentacle, or the sperm whales that they would pull up, would harvest. Well, let's just call it is kill. You had these dinner plate sized suction scars on them. Sucker scars. So there was some evidence, but then scientists, God bless them, and I'm one, but what they get hidebound. It's kind of well, that doesn't happen. That doesn't exist. We know it. Well, no, we wouldn't. I mean, the first preserved platypus specimen that was sent back to the Royal Museum in Great Britain, the curator was incensed. He was furious. How dare this field biologist try to trick him with such a obviously fraudulent concoction. The mountain gorilla. What do these, savages that, living in the jungle know about the animals that they live with? They did not say, they did not think that the mountain gorilla existed. So when it comes to cryptids and animal species, the possibility of existence, science has quite the bloody nose. Right. The coelacanth. They pulled a coelacanth, and because it was caught in one part of the world, but because the scientists that figured out what it was wanted credit for it, he said it was caught where he was. And the truth of the matter is they're at depths of, it's nearly about on the border of what a human diver can do. They're at the point where even with exotic mixtures, when they go down to where the coelacanth live, we're talking maybe 10, 15-minute bottom times, and then hellacious decompression cycles on the way up. So they're not in an area that's easily, they live in plentiful numbers, but the coelacanth is somewhere where humans can't go easily. Yeah, there you go. We're judging the world by our, through the lens of our own human limitations. So yeah, I think megalodons could be out there. I think there could be remnants. There could be remnant species of all kinds of things out there. We just don't have the capability of looking for them right now. And sending one ROV submarine down, that's like, that's like, you're not going to see everything. It's amazing that we see what we do discover.
Right.
We can't even find Nessie in a lake. How are we going to find a megalodon? Know what I mean?
Right.
And they supposedly have a Nessie similarity in what, the Great Lakes, I think it is, isn't it?
Lake Champlain has Champy, who is sort of looks like some kind of aquatic dinosaur. Ogopogo out in your neck of the woods. There's also a river monster in the, like in the Ohio River, or maybe it's Mississippi. There's supposed to be a river monster like in the middle of the country, but there's enough of these people. There's enough credible people who see these things. And granted, that what they call pareidolia, I see things. I was going home the other day and I saw a hitchhiker, and it was a damn mailbox. Yeah. Okay, our eyes do play tricks on us, but I think there's enough independently witnessed events of these creatures. You got to give them some credit that they may exist. ghosts don't exist, but I've had one talk to me. So I have to look at all the supernatural, paranormal stuff through the lens of somebody who experienced the supposedly impossible. So yeah, I think there's probably a lot of cryptids that get poo-pooed by science, but they're probably out there. Like I said, scientists forget that we are servants to a tool. Science is a tool. Both are, the scientist and science in itself are slaves to the truth. The truth is the boss. We're just tools to try to establish that truth. And it's not foolproof by any means. There's too many places for bias to sink in. There's, we're the best we got, but by no means are scientists, and especially biologists, top of the rung as far as the people you want to listen to when it comes to what's possible. There's too many institutionally hidebound, closed-minded people. My hat's off to people like Kathy Strain, who is an educated, she's a degreed anthropologist. Her study on Sasquatch and the Native American version of, their tales. And then Jeff Meldrum, who's, PhD anthropologist, who's willing to go out there and say, well, this damn thing could happen. These feet aren't quite like human feet. And, there's things, he won't come right out and say it to me. He comes as close as he can and keeps his credibility. Yes, it could exist.
I fully agree, and I believe it's Jeff Melgrim. We were trying to get to Paracon. Actually, he's the one out of Idaho, isn't he?
I believe so. Yes.
Yeah, and I wasn't able to get a hold of him.
Yeah, he's a tough one to get a hold of. As somebody who tries to produce another show, let me tell you, there's some of these people that, one, they don't need us, and unless you just happen to meet one on a good day, it's tough to get them.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you stop trying, but yeah, they have filters. They have many people that their job is to make sure that so and so is not bothered.
Right.
Whether so and so told them I don't want to be bothered, or if they just take it upon themselves. Oh, I work for the great Jeff Meldrum. He's not going to bother with, they have sycophants that get in the way of people like us.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate. For us, anyway.
Well, it's, our audiences, there's a lot of things one-on-one that you could talk to a person like Jeff Meldrum. You see him on, there's probably no more than maybe 4 or 5 hours of Jeff Meldrum on film and tape, or, sound and video. Can you imagine getting to sit down with a guy like that, what you might learn that's not in any of that footage?
Exactly. And so, moving back to hauntings, the others. Who's seen the others?
Is that the Nicole Kidman?
Yeah.
Yes, that one was the one that about 10, 15 minutes into it, I thought, yeah. I'm not sure what the time was, but at one point, it's like, okay, I know what's going on here. And then it was just waiting for the end of the movie to find out if I was right.
And that's exactly what I tell people to watch. And it shows how spirits portray you as the living.
Like we portray them as, it's almost the mirror image.
It
is. It's the same complaints, the same phenomena they're experiencing. That it's just from the other side of the camera lens, or the other side of the tri-field meter, if you will.
And it's funny. We still get the argument from even people in FMP that, oh, spirit, there's no such thing as spirits. They're all really just demons. No, they're not.
Yeah, bullcrap. Demons got better things to do and have a busier agenda and are sent on tasks, unless it's punishment for screwing up an assignment. Hanging out in your closet and making groaning noises is not a demon.
No. And what people need to understand is spirits can scratch and spirits can cause physical, people to be pushed and things of that nature as much as a demon can. Demons are very rare. And, getting people to understand that fact is about 90% of the problem. But yeah, there's more spirit activity than there is any demonic, hands down. And you don't need the priest to come in to remove a demon. We do it all the time.
Right.
Not all the time, because again, they're rare. But when we do encounter a demonic, case, we can remove it. So, but the others, I think, is a prime movie example of how spirits portray you. And instead of I'm being haunted, well, think of it from their point of view. The other one I like is Sixth Sense.
Mm-hmm.
It took me 2 or 3 times to watch it. I'm just slow, I guess, but to understand what was going on.
That was another one that I kept seeing cues. It's like, okay, the mother's going about her business and the psychologist is talking to the kid. You finally notice about halfway through that movie, no one reacts to Bruce Willis but that little kid.
Yep.
Haley Joel Osment.
Yep.
Nobody is interacting with him. He's not showing up and as a reflection. He's not showing up anywhere and he's not doing anything. He's not smoking a cigarette or he's not doing something that other people would react to.
Yeah.
That's like that dude. I was with a date and I elbowed her and said, I think he's dead.
But it took you...
But that was a good one.
It took you about halfway through the movie to kind of figure that out. It really
just realizing he's not interacting and nobody's reacting to him or his presence but that kid.
Yeah. And another one is white noise. And
Awesome.
I think white noise is important in that you listen to a spirit box, you listen to white noise, it opens up a channel. And you do need to be careful, even for the amateur that wants to try it out. That if you're not using protection, you can open up the channel to invite things in. And I think that was an important aspect of that movie that people miss.
Right, because that guy thought he was, basically, what was it, Michael Keaton in that one?
Yeah.
The first one?
Yeah.
He gets kind of obsessed and decides to stick the supernatural in the eye with a sharp stick, a pointy stick. He goes, Joe Monk on him, and they go Joe Monk back on him.
And it wasn't the titanium stick
it pokes
either.
Back. No. Yeah, it's like, that was a good one. That was one. The sequel wasn't half bad either.
And I know I saw White Noise too, but I really don't remember a whole lot of it.
It wasn't that memorable a movie. I remember it being good, and enjoyable, and I liked it. But it wasn't one of those that left had a lasting impression.
No, you got movies that you watch and they're great, and you probably don't want to watch them again because they were great, but not worth watching again. And then I've got, but then I've got movies that I can watch back to back to back to back, over and over again. Like Battleship is one of those.
It's like Changeling for me. Yeah.
Bill and Ted.
Bill and Ted.
Absolutely. I can sit there and watch that over and over again and rewind it. I have no problem with that.
Which one?
Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
Oh.
And
I can watch the Deadpool movies like back. I can watch Deadpool 1, Deadpool 2, and then go right back to Deadpool 1.
For any kids that may be listening, when I say rewind, that means you actually had to rewind the tape.
Yeah. VCR.
Oh.
Yeah.
I loved when the first DVD, I had young stepchildren when I got my first DVD player, and they didn't have one. So I bought, I think it was Bug's Life, or, I bought, Secret of Nim. I got something for them.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember when the movie was over, I told I think it was my youngest at the time, go rewind that. And it was hilarious watching them go up and look for, wait a minute, this is DVD. You can't rewind that. It was fun. Evil parenting tip number 3.
Right. So as we're coming to the closing of the show, we've gone over a lot of movies and a lot of the pros and the cons and the good movies to watch that are based on some fact. And I think what you need to take away from this is do your research. And there's a lot of facts that are shown. Look at Supernatural. Supernatural is one that there is a lot of fact based in the cases they did in the first couple seasons. Stranger Things, another good one. I'm going to say this about Stranger Things. Stranger Things is a very good portrayal of astral. The upside down, as they call it, is a very good depiction of what astral is.
It's chaotic. Sometimes it doesn't quite make sense because it's your regular brain trying to make sense of something that doesn't fit that paradigm.
Yeah. And look at a lot of these directors and producers, and some of them ain't going to come out and say, yep, we were told information. But just watch the news and do some history, do some research, and you'll find out what's fact and what's fiction. But Markham, do you have a show yet?
No, family things are kind of keeping me from being able to put the time and effort into it. I've got a housebound parent that relies on me kind of heavily to get them around. Plus, where they're at, they're kind of isolated. So it's like I got to be the human voice, So yeah, that might be getting ready to change, though. I think he's going to go into an assisted living, sell his house, and go into VA sponsored assisted living, and that should maybe, hopefully, free me up a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Good deal.
But yeah, I'd love to do a show.
And happy birthday!
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Oh man, I was just all day here at work. I was thinking, okay, by this time last year, Coop had the fire going. Yep. I was just thinking, what a great friggin' probably one of the best birthdays ever was at your place last year.
Oh, it was a blast.
And thank you very much for that. It was a
blast.
The memory of that party and what was going on that weekend pretty much has been getting me through this work day.
Good. And Cole, where can we find Statement of Sound DJ services?
You can find us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/SOSDJPro, or you can call me direct at 360-999-2830.
Excellent. Excellent. And Cole's also the one you can get a hold of if you want to put an advertisement, be a sponsor of S4.
At that same number.
Exactly. So if you have a paranormal emergency or a situation you want us to check out, you can always find Forest Moon Paranormal at Facebook. And if you want to get your S4 mug, go to www.s-4radio.com. So next week, it's Mother's Day, and we're going to do a Mother's Day show. And we're going to talk about mediums and how that can be useful in paranormal emergencies. And that'll be kind of our Mother's Day show, and we'll go into children again, like we did last week a little bit. And, you know, mothers and the paranormal. And it'll just be a fun old show. So, I want to thank everyone tonight. Cole Wegleitner, our FMP Culture and Lore Research Specialist, and owner of Statement of Sound DJ Services. And, of course, Eric Markham, our FMP Scientist. So thank you again for listening to S4. Keep your eyes to the skies. Remember, it's you, our listeners, that give us a reason to produce S4. Stay safe out there. Have a great week. And we'll see you next week.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us tonight on S4, the official voice of Forest Moon Paranormal. You can contact S4 through our website at www.s-4radio.com or on Facebook. Make sure you give us a like on our page and join the Forest Moon Paranormal group. If you are interested in advertising, take a look at our packages and contact Cole or Eric at 1-360-999-2830. Again, thank you. And remember, keep your eyes to the sky.